Good morning. My name is Matthew Schneider and I am the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan. Today we are announcing federal felony charges against former Macomb County Prosecutor Eric Smith. The United States of America has charged Smith with obstruction of justice in violation of federal law. The allegations are that in connection with his official duties as the elected county prosecutor and chief law enforcement official for Macomb County, Mr. Smith encouraged at least 2 assistant prosecuting attorneys who worked in his office to lie to the FBI. The purpose of the lies was that so Mr. Smith could obstruct a federal grand jury investigation into a wire fraud scheme that Mr. Smith was perpetrating. Of course, these charges are only allegations. Mr. Smith is innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proving these charges lies entirely on the United States. However, Mr. Smith has agreed to plead guilty to this charge. Today we also filed a plea agreement, which Mr. Smith and his attorney have signed. This plea agreement describes in detail how this crime took place. This scheme started in approximately 2012. During that time, while Eric Smith was the sitting Macomb County prosecutor, he controlled a political campaign fund. Mr. Smith raised money for this fund by telling donors that the money would be used for his re-election. Sometimes that was true, but sometimes that was a lie. It was a fraud. That is because Mr. Smith stole money from his campaign account and he used it for his own personal whims. The plea agreement describes 2 examples of this fraud. First, between January 2012 and April 2019, Prosecutor Smith had approximately $55,000 in checks written from his campaign account to an associate. The stated purpose for the money was to pay for, quote, rent to the associate to use the associate's property for a campaign office. But that was a sham. The associate cashed the checks, kicked back the entire amount to Prosecutor Smith for Smith's own enjoyment. Second, in September 2016, Prosecutor Smith gave a $20,000 check from his campaign fund to an assistant Macomb County prosecuting attorney who worked for Smith. Smith told the assistant prosecutor to give Smith back $15,000 from the $20,000 check, which Smith used for his own personal expenses. The assistant prosecutor, with Smith's approval, kept $5,000. But the theft of campaign funds was only the beginning of this scheme. What came next was Smith's attempt to cover up his crimes. First, Smith tried to get his associate to lie to federal law enforcement. 1 year ago, in September 2019, Prosecutor Smith learned that a federal grand jury was investigating Smith's use of his campaign account. Mr. Smith also learned that FBI agents were planning to interview Smith's associate about the $55,000 in checks that had been improperly written from the account. Smith talked to his associate and tried to get the associate to lie to the FBI. Smith tried to convince his associate to falsely tell the FBI that the $55,000 kicked back to Smith was simply a loan that Smith would repay. Prosecutor Smith also urged his associate to lie to a federal grand jury. Second, Smith tried to get the assistant prosecutor on his staff to lie. In February 2020, Prosecutor Smith approached the assistant prosecutor while inside the Macomb County Prosecutor's office. Smith led the assistant prosecutor to her stairwell inside the office. Smith did this after confirming that the assistant prosecutor had left any cell phone behind in the office to make sure that the assistant prosecutor was not recording Smith. In the stairwell, Smith told the assistant prosecutor that federal law enforcement was investigating the nature of the $20,000 check that Smith had given to the assistant prosecutor. Smith suggested that he and the assistant prosecutor create a fake consultant contract to explain away the $20,000 that they had stolen from Smith's campaign fund. Smith's illegal attempts to obstruct justice, unfortunately, are not limited to just Smith's associate and his assistant prosecutor. In February 2020, Prosecutor Smith corruptly approached another assistant Macomb County prosecuting attorney to obstruct justice. Smith came to the second assistant prosecutor's office and instructed that prosecutor to take a walk with him and to leave any cell phone behind. Smith did this to ensure his conversation would not be recorded. Smith told the second assistant prosecutor to lie to federal law enforcement officers investigating the campaign fund. Specifically, Smith instructed the assistant prosecutor to falsely say that the assistant prosecutor conducted campaign-related research at the office of Smith's associate to justify the, quote, rent payments of $55,000. By doing all of this, Prosecutor Smith knowingly and willfully obstructed an ongoing federal investigation. Until his resignation from office in March, Eric Smith served as the Macomb County prosecutor for 16 years. He was the chief law enforcement official for one of the most populous counties in Michigan. Because of Smith's conduct in this case, and also because of Smith's position of public trust as one of Michigan's most prominent law enforcement officials, we intend to seek a prison sentence. Under the federal sentencing guidelines, we estimate that the sentence of imprisonment would be between 15 and 21 months. Of course, that sentence will be determined by the judge. Some may view federal charges against a longtime law enforcement official as a reason to lack confidence in our elected officials, or our prosecutors, or our government. But in fact, the opposite is true. Our system works. When there is a rare case where someone who has sworn an oath to protect us violates that oath by committing crimes, that person will be held accountable. This is one of those cases. No one is above the law in Michigan, and that includes those who enforce the law. I also want to mention that my office asked Mr. Smith to resign from office because of our federal charges, and he agreed to do so. We made this request because the people of Macomb County deserve to have a prosecutor who is not corrupt. I want to thank FBI Special Agent in Charge Steve D'Antuono and his outstanding FBI agents who have investigated this case. It is only through the FBI's professionalism and incredibly hard work that we are able to bring justice to the people of Michigan. We also owe our thanks to Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel and her office, as well as Michigan State Police Director Joe Gasper and his team. The state has been conducting a separate investigation of Eric Smith relating to a forfeiture fund. Our offices have worked well together, and we've been able to avoid the problems that sometimes arise when two jurisdictions investigate the same person. Finally, I am deeply thankful to the incredible work of Assistant United States Attorneys David Gardy, Michael Bellata, and Rob Moran. All of these dedicated prosecutors have worked above and beyond the call of duty, especially during this difficult time of a pandemic. Thank you.